Hello, my name is Tracy Allen, and I want to welcome you to Cooking with Some Friends. Hello and welcome to Cooking with Some Friends. Through the month of November, we're going to do a combination of things that you might have for sides and for your Thanksgiving meal, but we're also going to do several different things with pumpkin because that seems to be the thing during October and November. So anyway, today's recipe, as you might have guessed, has to do with pumpkin. So we are going to make some pumpkin cookies. And these cookies are going to have some cream cheese icing that goes over the top of them. And so in my bowl, I have 2.5 cups of flour. And to that, I want to whisk in some pumpkin, I'm having trouble talking, pie spice. And I need 2.5 teaspoons, which is quite a bit. And I'm not sure I have 2.5 teaspoons in my container. So I got my other one out just in case. 2.5 teaspoons of pumpkin pie spice. Had plenty, so I'll have plenty when it's time to do other things. I also want to put into this a teaspoon of baking powder. And I want my other measuring spoon so I don't cross over. So this is 1/2 teaspoon, so I'll do 2 of these. And 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. Those both are leavening agents, so they both will make my cookies get a little puffy, assuming I can get it out of the container. Okay. I'm trying to set these things aside as I use them. 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. And I'm just going to whisk these dry ingredients together, and then I'll set this aside while I work on my wet ingredients. And really, the wet ingredients are very simple. I preheated my oven to 350. I have my cookie sheets back in the back with the parchment on them ready to go. I've got my cookie scoops out, and I'll probably use the smaller of the two. I was going through some of my equipment that I have had for years in my crock down below, and I found that I have duplicates of some of these, so I buy and then I buy again. So I'm going to set that aside. And in my wet ingredients, I'm going to cream together a stick of butter, and 1/2 cup of vegetable oil. Stick over there. I've got my ingredients over to the side for our icing for later. I want to cream these together on a low speed just to get them mixed before I add some of the other ingredients. So I'm going to turn my mixer on for a minute. Okay. Now to that, I want to add my 2 different types of sugar. And I have both granulated sugar, which I have 1 1/4 cups of granulated sugar, and I have just 1/2 cup of brown sugar. So I want to start this on a low speed and then increase it after I get it mixed in. now I want to go ahead and put in my pumpkin, and I have a 15-ounce can of pumpkin puree. And you could use pumpkin pie filling for this recipe if you want to. Again, start at a low so you don't throw it everywhere. Eggs in, but I just want to do my eggs one at a time. I also want to add in some vanilla, and I want 2 teaspoons of vanilla. I do this every time, saying I'm not going to use my left hand, and then I use my left hand anyway. Mix that in with 1 egg. Once I get this egg mixed in, then I will go to and add the other egg. You're just more likely to get the eggs well incorporated if you do that. Okay, so once I get this egg mixed in, then I'm ready to slowly add the dry ingredients into the wet. And when it does gradually, I normally try to do it by fourths, or at least no more than thirds. That's why I always put my lids back on. The last addition is going in. Okay, I'm ready to put these on my cookie sheet, and then I will pop those in the oven, and they need to bake for about 12 to 15 minutes. Okay, I have 1 batch of my cookies in the oven baking at 350, and I've got the stuff out for my icing, but while I'm waiting, I'm going to go ahead and get the next tray of cookies ready. And I could use my double ovens, but I'm not going to, just because I'm not in that big of a hurry. So you just want to take your cookie dough and drop it on, and make sure you place them about 2 inches apart so that they have room to expand. I don't ever trust myself to line my cookies up exactly to give them enough room. Okay, as soon as the others come out to cool, I'll put this tray in and we'll get them all done. Okay, our cookies are all baked. They're behind me cooling, and so now it's time to make that cream cheese icing. And this recipe originally, I want to share, but it originally came from best blog recipes, but there are changes that you can make. Obviously, you can add a little more pumpkin pie spice if you want to. You could add a little more cinnamon if you choose to. In the end, it tells you that in the recipe that you can sprinkle them, after you ice them, sprinkle them with more pumpkin pie spice. I don't think you need it, but it's there if you want it. But we're gonna make the icing. Anyway, so I have 8 ounces of room temperature cream cheese, and I also have a half a cup or 1 stick of soft butter. So I want to cream those together. And for a little variation, this recipe calls for clear vanilla, but you can use regular vanilla if you choose, but you need to add 2 teaspoons of clear vanilla. I'll get that in a minute, as long as I don't knock that over. And now I'm gradually going to add my powdered sugar, and it takes 3 cups of powdered sugar. So my cup I have is a half cup. And I do have a couple tablespoons of milk waiting for me that I can add to thin this down some. Cream cheese icing. Let's do last cup. Okay, so as you can see, our icing is pretty thick, and I don't want it too thin. So I'm going to add just a little bit of that milk that I've set aside and stir that in, or beat that in. And then I'm going to go ahead and put about a tablespoon of icing on each cookie and spread that on it. Okay. So I will take one of my cookies, about a tablespoon of icing on, and just spread it around. And then that cookie's ready to go. The yield of this recipe says that it'll make 40 cookies, and I found that pretty much to be true. I think the last batch I made 43. So anyway, if you wanted to cut it in half, you could. It's just that when you're dealing with a can of pumpkin, that's not always the easiest thing to do. So I hope you enjoy them. Good morning and welcome to Cooking with Some Friends. I'm going to do another pumpkin recipe this morning, but before I get started, like I've done before, I'd like to encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, to follow us on Facebook, all of those things, just so I make sure that you don't miss a recipe that we have to share with you. I'd love to hear comments, any of those. So anyway, let's do our pumpkin cake roll. In my bowl, I have 3/4 cup of flour, and to that I'm going to add a mixture, as soon as I see where I put it, a mixture of a half a teaspoon of baking powder and a half teaspoon of soda, a teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice, and about a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And I'm just going to mix those things together and set this aside, and then I'm going to work on my wet ingredients. Okay. So in my bigger bowl, I'm going to mix together 2/3 cup of pumpkin. And this happens to be the pumpkin puree, the pure puree. It's not the pumpkin pie filling, but I think the pumpkin pie filling would work as well. And then I have a cup of sugar. And then I'm going to put in 3 eggs. And I'm preheating my oven to 375 while I do this. Okay. I'm going to mix this with the mixer. And then I'm going to add the flour mixture into the wet mixture. But first I'm going to mix these together. I could use my big mixer, but for this I'm just going to use my small one. Now that that's mixed together, I'm going to go ahead and add this in. I don't want to overmix. Scrape down my sides. Okay. I've also prepared my 10 by 15. I sprayed it, then I put parchment down and sprayed that. And I'm going to put my batter in the pan and spread it out. Then I'm going to bake this in my oven for 12 to 14 minutes. You can check it with a toothpick. And then I want to take it out, and when I take it out of the oven, I want to right away put it on a pastry cloth that's dusted with powdered sugar, and then I'll roll that up. Spread to all corners. Okay, it's ready to go in the oven. Okay, our cake is out of the oven. As you can see, I've taken the pastry cloth and I dusted it with powdered sugar. Then I turned the cake out onto the pastry cloth, and then I removed the parchment, and now I'm ready to start rolling my cake. I'm going to start from the small end. And I want to roll it all the way across. Now that this is rolled, I'm going to leave this to cool, and once it's completely cooled, I'm going to unroll this and then put the filling on that's made of butter, cream cheese, and powdered sugar with a little bit of vanilla, and then I'll roll it back again, and it'll be ready to go. So we have our pumpkin cake roll. It's cooled, rolled into this pastry cloth, and now we're ready to make the filling that goes over it, and then will be rolled up in the center of that. And so for that, I have 8 ounces of cream cheese that's at room temperature, 6 tablespoons of softened butter. I need a teaspoon of vanilla, and I'm gonna cream those together. And at that point, once those are creamed together, I'm gonna go ahead and mix in 1 cup of powdered sugar, and that's our filling. Okay, so let's get this thing unrolled and get the filling in and re-roll it. Okay, we're unrolled and we are ready to put our filling in and then re-roll. So I'm just going to take the filling that we made with the cream cheese, the butter, the vanilla, and the powdered sugar. I'm going to spread that all over. once I get this spread on, I'm going to roll this back up. And then when we get that completely rolled, I'll dust it with powdered sugar and then wrap it in plastic wrap and put it in the refrigerator. You'll need to refrigerate it a couple of hours before you try to slice it, but then it's ready to slice and serve. Ready to re-roll without the toweling. It's such a moist cake. You want to roll it as tight as you can. There we go. Now I'm ready to dust the whole thing with powdered sugar, wrap it in plastic wrap, and refrigerate. Thanks for joining us for this session of Cooking with Some Friends. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And find us on Facebook at Cooking with Some Friends.